What if one agreement, signed to calm a crisis, actually helped lay the groundwork for a civil war? That is why the Cairo Accord of 1969 remains one of the most important and controversial turning points in modern Lebanese history. Signed on 3 November 1969, the accord was meant to regulate relations between the Lebanese state and the Palestinian armed organizations operating in Lebanon. Instead of solving the problem, it contained it for a short time while creating new tensions that became even more dangerous in the years that followed. To understand the Cairo Accord, we need to begin with the aftermath of the 1967 Arab-Israeli War. This defeat transformed Palestinian politics. Many Palestinians no longer believed that Arab regimes alone would be able to recover Palestine, so armed struggle became central to Palestinian political identity. Palestinian fighters, also known as Fedayeen, gained enormous popularity, especially after the Battle of Karameh in March 1968, which gave them a major symbolic victory in Jordan and increased support for guerrilla warfare. In Lebanon, this regional shift created a dangerous new reality. Palestinian operations against Israel increasingly began from the south, especially from the Arqub region, later known as Fatahland. Over time, Palestinian camps and bases became more militarized, and for many Lebanese, especially on the Christian right, this no longer looked like just support for Palestine. It looked like a direct challenge to the authority of the Lebanese state. A major turning point came with the Israeli raid on Beirut airport in December 1968. This attack increased pro-Palestinian activism in Beirut and pushed student politics in a more militant direction. When students returned in January 1969, they launched a 12-day strike, including a hunger strike, and demanded that the Lebanese government recognize Fedayeen activity in Lebanon, fortify the border villages, and hold those responsible for the airport strike accountable. This showed that the Palestinian issue had moved decisively into Lebanon's internal political life. Supporters of the Fedayeen increasingly framed the struggle as part of a broader Arab cause, while opponents saw it as a threat dragging Lebanon into war. Facing growing domestic unrest and regional pressure, the Lebanese state chose negotiation instead of direct confrontation. The result was the Cairo Accord, signed under the sponsorship of Gamal Abdel Nasser, between Yasser Arafat and Lebanese Army Commander General Emil Bustani, representing the Lebanese state. The agreement was meant to end the immediate crisis of 1969 and create rules for coexistence between Lebanon and the Palestinian resistance. The core of the agreement was simple but explosive. It legalized Palestinian Fedayeen operations from southern Lebanon and formally regulated their movement and activity. Its key elements included allowing Palestinians living in Lebanon to participate in the Palestinian Revolution while supposedly respecting Lebanese sovereignty, facilitating the movement of Fedayeen fighters, especially to and from the Arqub region, identifying crossing and observation points near the border, securing the road to the Arqub area, and enabling medical evacuation and supply support linked to Fedayeen operations. The agreement also recognized the armed Fedayeen's right to be present and move around Lebanese territory, especially in connection with the Arqub, and effectively granted a kind of extraterritorial status to the Palestinian camps. In the short term, the accord did what it was designed to do. It ended the immediate political crisis and made it possible to form a new government. That is why some saw it as a practical compromise. But in reality, the agreement solved the crisis only on paper. In practice, it gave official recognition to an armed non-state presence inside Lebanon. The Cairo Accord had three major long-term consequences. First, it deepened sectarian and political polarization. The Palestinian military presence in Lebanon widened the rift between Christians and Muslims. Many Muslims and leftist groups sympathized with the Palestinian cause, while many Christians saw the Fedayeen as undermining the balance of the Lebanese system. Second, it weakened Lebanese sovereignty. Once armed Palestinian organizations could operate, move, and maintain camp autonomy under a recognized framework, the Lebanese state no longer had full control over force on its own territory. This is why many later described the PLO as becoming a state within a state. Third, it helped prepare the ground for future conflict. After Black September in Jordan in 1970, thousands of Palestinian fighters and their structures shifted toward Lebanon, where they enjoyed far greater freedom of action. This massive Palestinian presence, combined with Israeli reprisals and Lebanon's fragile confessional order, helped push the country toward the confrontation that erupted in April 1975. The Cairo Accord was not a peace agreement in the true sense. It was a crisis management deal. It calmed Lebanon temporarily, but it did so by postponing the central issue: who truly controlled Lebanese territory, arms, and political authority. From the post-1967 rise of Palestinian armed struggle to the Beirut airport shock and January 1969 mobilization to the April 1969 clashes, the Cairo Accord emerged out of a state already under pressure, and instead of resolving that pressure, it formalized it, starting a time bomb that would later detonate and lead to a 15-year civil war. That is why the Cairo Accord remains one of the clearest examples in Lebanese history of a short-term compromise with devastating long-term consequences.